So when I first start posting in early February invitations to come to our Black History Month rallies, it's a pretty standard feature every year to have at least one person, because I send this across 28 Facebook pages, and many of them are very conservative. So it's a standard thing for at least one person to say, well, what about White History Month? When are you going to do that? And at first my response was, I think, pretty straightforward, which is, well, that's pretty much all year round, and what's the matter with setting aside 1 month for other people? But I've tried to deepen my thought on that. So I want to tell you a little bit about something that happens this year. Because part of my thought was, well, why not? Why not shine a light on all history, good and bad? Highlight the good as an example of what we want to be. Why not highlight the bad as an example of what we want to avoid? I don't think we want to have less discussion about history. I think we should have more discussion, more perspectives, leading to more understanding. So would I actually support a White History Month? No. I think the purpose of a specific focus on a particular month, like Black History Month, Women's History Month, Pride Month, is to illuminate what was once hidden, to illuminate what was underreported or overlooked. But do I support more consideration of what has actually been, what it meant, and what we can learn from it? Absolutely. So, because right now, we're a nation that is either trying to avoid difficult lessons or engaging in really cockeyed analysis of the past. The question of what MAGA means by again is the most obvious example. And again, it was pretty easy for us to say, oh, make America great again? Well, tell me the year you thought it was great. Well, women couldn't vote. Blacks were slaves. Civil rights hadn't happened yet. We had Jim Crow. And that's on that level, that analysis is perfectly appropriate. But I want to focus on a clear part of our present, because our present will be part of history eventually. And only by trying to understand our present can we write a better future. So I want to talk about Marko Elez. Raise your hand if you've heard of Marko Elez. Okay, when I start talking about Marko Elez, when you say, oh, that guy, feel free to raise your hand if you'd like. So that guy, he's around Julia's age. He graduated Rutgers in 2001. He worked for Elon Musk's SpaceX as a software developer. Lisa wins. He then worked for Elon Musk's company X, formerly Twitter, as a software developer. Then he was appointed a government employee in January of 2025 as part of Elon Musk's Doge. And he was there for a couple of weeks. And then some of his social media posts were discovered. He said some things that might not fit in with Justice Southbury's vision of a more fair and kind community for all. Things that might not sound like our message of love your neighbor. Last September, this young man wrote on a social media post sent to the world, normalize Indian hate. In September, he wrote, you could not pay me to marry outside of my ethnicity. Last June, he wrote, I would not mind at all if Gaza and Israel were both wiped off the face of the earth. And last July, he wrote, quote, just for the record, I was racist before it was cool, end quote. Just for the record, I was racist before it was cool. So first of all, he says, just for the record, which is what you say when you're making sure that people will know where you stand. Just for the record. You better understand. I've been saying this. You better note this. I want this heard and understood. He wanted it known. He wanted to show his bona fide credentials. He wanted no mistake, no ambiguity about where he stood, what he believed. He was proud of it. He posted it for the whole world to see. When Donald Trump, about 10 years ago, was first rising to political prominence, some said, this guy is making it safe for people to be more open about racism. We talked about how he was revealing something in this country, that there were people who had racist feelings, who felt like they had to keep them to themselves, but he gave sort of a permission structure for people to show those true colors. He talks about good people on both sides. And that kind of opinion, that he's revealing something, was of course criticized by some as unfair and untrue. Like, well, are you saying that all people who support Donald Trump are racist? I don't agree with that, and I don't believe that. But look what has happened over this time period. We've gone from this revealing racism to reveling in racism. The MAGA movement is not just safe for casual racism now, it's more. It's very specific and obvious and blatant and clear. Racism is cool. It's something to be proud of. Just for the record, I was racist before it was cool. And again, I don't mean to judge every single person in the MAGA movement, in the government, anyone who voted for Donald Trump. I don't mean to tarnish everyone with that. But consider what happened here. Am I being unfair to Marko Elez or to Elon Musk or to Donald Trump by focusing on some social media posts? Would I want all of Justice Southbury to be judged by something obscure that one of our people posted? Well, here's where the story gets interesting. Marko Elez resigned on February 6th, 2 weeks ago, when his posts came to light. That could have been the end of the story. That should have been the end of the story. But the next day, Elon Musk initiated a poll on X asking whether Marko should be rehired by Doge. 385,000 X/Twitter posters responded to that poll. And the majority said that he should be rehired. In fact, when I first saw the story, it was running 78-22 in favor of the person who was proudly racist before being proudly racist was cool. Remember, this proud racist was not fired for his cool racism. He resigned, which was the right thing to do. Which is what he should have done. And yes, the fact that almost 4 out of 5 poll takers, which is like the same as the dentists who recommend that sugarless gum, so the fact that 4 of 5 poll takers supported this proud, cool racism, that is obviously a skewed poll. This is not a vetted poll of the entire nation. The sampling would never pass muster as a neutral poll. It was just people who happen to be very active on X, a small portion of this country. But that small portion of our country who are active on X now run this country. And so the day after Musk's poll result was released, J.D. Vance, the Vice President of the United States, advocated for this proud, cool racist, Marko Elez, to be reinstated to the United States government. And then Donald Trump, President of the United States, endorsed his Veep's his Veep's position. And with that, Marko Elez was proudly reinstated by Elon Musk to his post within Doge, his position within the United States government. All of this happened during the first week of Black History Month 2025, as the same government was shutting down federal recognition of Black History Month. This is where a growing part of this country is going, including the government and other leaders. And again, I want to emphasize, I am not saying in any way that that applies to everyone, or all the supporters, or all the people who would have voted and would vote again for any of these leaders. But the idea of going on the record about how racist you are, and not just saying, well, now I'm a racist, but saying, hey, I was a racist before it was cool. The overt, proudly overt racism, the cool racism, there will be more of it. And there will be less governmental oversight, less monitoring, less social punishment. Cool, when you're young, gives you social capital. So we're probably going to see more of this in our schools and our communities, unless we stop it. Unless we say enough, no more. We need to call it out. We need to ask others to denounce it. We need to learn about what is going on, and then we need to challenge it. Some of the Facebook conversations that I had with people when this was all developing a couple of weeks ago were interesting. Because some people who are exposed to a certain part of the media, they don't hear this. And again, I don't blame them. If their news sources do not tell them these things are going on, I don't blame them, but I want them to be exposed to more. So when I posted this, and some people said, I don't believe that. Where are you getting that from? I said, just Google it. And so some people Googled it and said, I didn't find it. I said, okay, Google Marko Elez of Doge. And someone still said, well, I couldn't find it. So I responded to that one with a line from a Grateful Dead song. You ain't going to learn what you don't want to know. We need to speak up, and we need to lean in, and we need to shine a light on this. There are many people who ain't going to learn what they don't want to know. Groups like Justice Southbury need to help people learn, even if they don't want to know. Groups like Justice Southbury need to try to make it, groups like ours need to try to make it uncool to be a racist. Yes, just for the record, Justice Southbury was preaching love your neighbor before it was cool. That's something I'd like to see in a couple of years. But for now, let's make that cool. Thank you.